Holidays nale, adu namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.
Join the team. Which values you and your thoughts? Hiring now.
When are you making ZNMD2?
We will.
Hi,
Hello.
Reema, Zoya,
Hi.
Zima, Roya. I'm like trying to combine both of you in the same interview. Welcome to Galatta Plus. And congratulations on this Archie's movie, which
Thank
I think
you.
a certain generation, I'm dating myself the minute I say that, I'm very familiar with this world.
Yeah, you're the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so I'm the easy sell, It's
Yeah,
like, oh my
yeah.
God, I really want to watch this movie. So one thing I wanted to ask right off the bat is that we are at this time of this particular narrative in Indian cinema where just post-pandemic, everyone is saying that, oh, these rooted regional films are doing really well, whereas, Bollywood's lost the plot because, like they're making all these Bandra, whatever movies. And this movie is really going to get that a little bit of that because it's not just un-Indian in a way. It's
Right.
actually borrowed from the West,
And
the
I-
Hollywood kind
yeah,
of a thing.
yeah.
Have you prepared an answer for that question when
No,
when it
I
comes
mean,
to-
it's what it is. The point is, it's firstly not Bandra. It's set in the 1960s
No, I
in a
know.
hill
I know what I
station.
mean, yeah.
But it is, like, I'm quite excited. It's a comic book we grew up reading. And it is the first ever Archie film made. And they wanted it out of our industry. And I think that's amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
So why should I look at it negatively? It's an opportunity for me to do something fantastical, to
Right.
do something that's fairy tale-esque. You know what I mean? Like, that's not real.
Right.
And to adapt it somewhere within our culture and put it out there for the world. So I'm really excited.
Right.
I don't know why people want everybody to make the same kind of film.
Yeah.
We are an industry, and the most exciting part is that we have to have all kinds of films for
Yeah.
all kinds of audience.
Right.
So there will be some people that may not relate to it, and that's fine. There's so many films that I don't relate to. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be made.
Right.
It's
right.
okay.
Yeah. No, and also I think, the reason I ask this is because everybody confuses rootedness with a very local kind of thing. But a Dil Dhadakne though is rooted in its own way because it's very rooted in its world.
Yeah, I mean,
we are
born,
it's not just
bred, educated, brought up in this country. This is who we are. We are filmmakers that tell stories from here. They're just different types of stories, and
Right.
that's all.
right.
I think we should see this in perspective that it is a comic book that we are adapting, and it is Archie.
Right.
But given that we have, we have tried to place it at a time and a place, and in the framework of our film, I mean, I think it's very Indian. It is Indian.
Right,
There's
right.
nobody who can sit there and say this is Western. It is true of 1960s India.
Now, two questions about the writing. One is, the Archies work because they're all like 3-4 pages of a story, right? It's like, or sometimes there's even these little strips of kind of a thing. So it's like almost like a snack, and you're making a meal out of it. Tell me a little bit about how that happened, because now suddenly Archie's no longer doing just this one thing and getting caught with Mr. Lodge or whatever it is, but he's probably going through huge character arcs or like the other people. So can you briefly tell me a little bit about how that
Yeah, we
happened?
were very aware of that. So what we did do is we took the characters and what the characters intrinsically are and what their essence is, and then we put it into a narrative. And what we wanted to do was we wanted a narrative that would have the memory lane and the nostalgia and the idealism of what the comic is and was to us, but thematically resonate with kids today. So that was, I think, where we went with it.
Yeah.
And blended today's issues with children with that idealism and that naivety.
Okay.
Because,
so,
like
yeah.
she said, I mean, she and we are all low-hanging fruit. But how do you take something that's not relevant to, young people today and make it relevant to them?
Right.
That was the challenge, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you say, can you give me an example of, for example, like would a typical arc be a love story? I'm not asking you for the plot, but would you say something like that, like if there's like Archie, making a date with Betty, but then suddenly deciding to two-time with
That's
Veronica or
all, that's
whatever.
Archie. Archie.
But that flavor is there.
Yes,
Yeah.
Archie falls in love with Betty. Archie falls in love with Veronica. He's ping-ponging.
Yeah, yeah.
That's Archie.
Right.
That's
there.
That's
And
it.
that essence has
Archie,
to
Betty,
be kept,
Veronica has to be there.
Yeah.
So that is
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay.
So Jughead likes food, doesn't like girls. Moose is tough. Reggie's vain. I mean, that
that's-
kind of
yeah.
The characters are the Dilton's the brain.
Yeah.
All that is there.
Yeah,
That remains.
Yeah. The other thing about the writing I wanted to ask ask you is, both of you make what I loosely like to call trauma and therapy films, because because no, hear me out, and I mean this in a very nice way, because even that little scene of Shefali Shah having a piece of cake in Dil Dhadakne Do, that's there's always some an issue of somebody with pain, and they kind of cover from it. And Talash is a classic example of that trauma and therapy kind of thing. This is perhaps your first happy film.
Well, you'll find, because it's the two of us, you'll find some element of trauma and therapy, I think, in all our work.
Yeah, there is
That's
a
how
little bit,
we,
in a baby way. I mean, I think for me, I mean, and she writes with me, so even her, I'm just constantly coming of age. Like they say, filmmakers. I mean, do you think that you make?
No,
the
I
same
think
film?
it's also, I think we use psychology. We both studied psychology, not that we are psychologists.
I studied
but there,
sociology. You
whatever,
studied
but there is an element of that. You know what I'm saying? And it's also, I think, human behavior comes from somewhere, no?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're just charting that.
Right.
Yeah.
No. I'm just saying that there are many people who skirt these areas.
Yeah.
You guys
No,
really get after that.
they-
Like
they-
whether
you
it's a
see.
Hrithik angle in.
ZNMD.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the acronym right. Zindagi na milegi dobara.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, okay, so low hanging fruit, right? So the memory is going. So but the thing is, so that's what I'm saying. You know, there's always this angle of whether it's Murad and Gully Boy or something like that. There's always this little thing in them that makes them very human and maybe insecure or whatever it is, and then there's that therapy angle.
But
and
I resonate with those characters.
does.
I also, when I watch films and I see characters that are like, that have weakness.
Right.
Like I am attracted to it, and I mean it's just a human experience,
Right.
and of course we are packaging it, we're putting it in a format that needs to be commercially viable and put it to people. But somewhere I feel it would be very boring.
Yeah.
If you had characters that had nothing to. No pain.
Yeah,
It would
yeah.
be just
And-
and it won't be real.
It won't be real, more than boring,
Yeah.
because there's nobody in the world who's perfect or who has no, like a
Heartbreak,
negative side.
Yeah. And especially these years that you're charting, the teen years, they're
Yeah.
full of trauma.
Yeah.
You know, there's all kinds of trauma
Yeah.
and kind of a thing. How did you Indianize the cast? I know it's an Anglo-Indian thing. What were the things that, are they still Sundays, or did you kind of eat, is Jughead eating samosas? What's
No. I mean, it's a mix of both. It's a mix of both. I mean, we're sitting in pop dates.
Yeah.
And as you can see, Suzanne's done the most incredible job.
Right,
so
right.
if you go to Landor or you go to any of these places, you will find cafes like this. And it's got like a bit of an Irani vibe. So it's not like an American deli, but it's still got the pop dates vibe of the hangout.
You still get
booths.
vegetable cutlets.
And you'll get, menus right here. You get vegetable cutlets, you get puffs, you get stuff that we get in spaces like this. So, but you have the ice cream and you have the iconic things, definitely. But it's a mash, it's a mix. You know. So you've Indianized it to the point that it was Indian with that community.
Right.
And they had balls and they had dresses and they're very Western and they're very Anglicized. This is still 1963, so a lot of them stayed back. So it's that era, it's that period.
And that flavor came through very well in that little teaser that you put out, a trailer, because right from the colors. In that was like almost like it just felt like nostalgia, that the very color scheme of
Suzanne was very, very clear about actually using a lot of the 50s as a reference, because she was like, in India at that time, things didn't come, like anything that came in the West that became hip in the West took a time to trickle down to India, because it wasn't open, so things didn't just come instantly. So people were still in the 50s. They were still coming from there. So we actually went more in that zone with it. And I think it's worked very well.
Like when the teaser came out, because there was no context to it, a lot of people said that this is not Indian. They thought it was a contemporary film. So to me, the negative criticism was also great, because they were actually reacting to what they were seeing, and that means Zoya has done a great job, and there's something to see for them to react to. So it was great, and I think as more footage, as more publicity stuff comes out, and as the film comes out, the context becomes clear.
And just for clarification, Suzanne is your production designer. I'm just like, for those who don't know. So one more thing is, when you're writing in your earlier films, for both of you, actors that come in, and sometimes after casting, you're able to do a little rewrite, keeping that particular actor in mind. But here, it's a fresh cast. So when you were writing, did you also say that, oh, you know what, this person is doing this thing really well. Let's incorporate a bit of
Yes.
that into this
Yes.
writing. Did the writing change
Yeah.
along
A little
as you
bit.
discovered?
No, you add nuances, or you add a particular flavor in a scene, or so that always,
Yeah.
always that comes out in the workshop only.
Right.
Because also actors they also bring things to the table. They also have their own process on how to approach the
Right.
character, how to approach this emotion, how to get to this point in the narrative.
Right.
So those things can get very interesting, and then if they work, you just put them in.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You know, one thing with both you and your brother that you have in common is that you both started out with a bang. It's like Luck by Chance it's probably still your most acclaimed film, and Dil Chahta Hai kind of a thing. How do you prevent that from being an albatross around your neck and saying that I've got to move on? You know, I know everyone says that's like this fantastic film, but you know, I can't keep.
I don't honestly think about them.
Yeah.
Like I haven't watched a single film of mine after its release.
Really?
I haven't seen a single one, and I just
Not even like on TV.
I've seen scenes.
Yeah.
Like I've seen scenes, and then you sometimes you have to do things for a making of, or you have to talk about a scene. Yeah. So I've seen stuff like that, but never not sat and watched the whole film. I mean, and my
Is that deliberate?
yeah, maybe because I'm just like I know I'll start like why did I do this, or why did I do that, or why didn't I do this? But Carlos, my DP, who's done 3 films with me, he keeps telling me you should watch it as an exercise. You should watch all your films as an exercise, and I know I have to do it, and I'll get to it. But I don't think about what has happened and how it
all
went.
about- yeah.
I mean, like a Luck by Chance was really acclaimed in a sense, but it made no money.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I owe critics my self-esteem for that period, because I survived because of those reviews. You know, you take it very badly when something you've loved and nurtured comes out and doesn't do well. But I cannot explain to you what it felt to be validated in that way. You just survive. I just survived, you
Right.
know, and you just felt, okay, someone's getting me, you know, and you move on. But something fails, whether it doesn't fail, whether it's you get a thing, you feel it, you get excited for that period of time, or you feel shitty for that period of time, and then what next?
Yeah.
You know, and then you just are consumed with what you're doing next, and then that's that, and then that better be better than anything.
Right.
The best you can be right now, you know.
Right.
So I don't. If you're stuck, then you're not moving.
You have a take on that?
I mean, I think the bigger albatross around her neck is the ZNMD fans. They're fab, but they don't want Zoya to do anything else.
Yeah,
So whatever we announce
So they're
or
going to
say,
like Farhan's new movie
no,
then.
they're always like, what about ZNMD too?
They have,
So-
they have. When I dropped the trailer of DDD, I got screamed at. That you could never make another ZNMD. I mean, but I have only made ZNMD. What kind of
Yeah.
fan are you? It's
No.
like if I put anything, like I could put the saddest thing on Instagram, like my dog passed away, and they'll be like ZNMD 2 question mark. I'm like, who are these people? It's
Yeah.
very sweet. It's very flattering, but little bit
They just feel Zoya should be stuck in a vortex of ZNMD remakes, maybe, I don't know what. But there's nothing else that's valid.
Right.
Yeah.
But what about your own directorial career? You're a little more like you take your own time, and
Yeah.
you're also helping out. You both are writing the
Yeah.
synergies there between you both.
Sure.
And this film we've also Aisha Divitri is written with us
Right.
also, so
Right,
she
right,
was
right.
part of this process.
Right.
Right.
writing
So,
process.
so for both of you, which is the better thing, the writing or the directing?
I like both.
Both.
Wow.
Yeah, and no, it's really,
it's
when you write your own work, the directing is like an extension of the
Right,
writing, you
right.
know, so
No,
it's...
also it's a completely different energy.
Right.
Like you really hibernate when you're writing, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like a 9 to 5 process. You have a routine, you have a life. It's basically on your own, or just us. And when we are writing, after the discussions phase, when we are writing, we don't even interact.
Right.
You know, we don't speak. Like we just do our thing, and it's a very quiet phase, and it's a very needed phase, and very different things. I start working out, you start eating better, you know, different things happen, but the adrenaline
Yeah.
that
The shoot.
shifting gear and accelerating on a shoot. I mean, it's a high,
Yeah.
and I feel like I wouldn't survive without either. You
Right,
know,
right.
it's very very exciting.
Right. One question I really need to ask both of you is that you're both so excellent with handling actors. Where does that come from? Because one of the main jobs of a director is to get a particular meter or a rhythm of a pitch of a performance. And I know that should be more common, but it usually isn't, because most of the time it's the star that you see on screen. Whereas both of you are so good at, like Amir in Talash was a very different kind of Amir from the Amar that we usually see, which is not to say that he's not contributing anything, but how do you go about that?
Well, I mean, my AD career, you see different directors handling actors. For me, I think where I really learned from was on Lagan, the way Ashutosh handled the cast. You know, there was a lot of, for me, points that I took from him that I continue, the kind of work he did with them.
Can you give me one?
Just the way he spent time with the actors, the way he workshopped them, the readings he did. To me, I thought he was very good with them.
Right.
And I picked up a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff that I've picked up from Zoya, how she works actors. So yeah, it's a mix of
everything.
being around and also kind of, I think, impulsively just going along with.
Also, I think we are writer directors, and there is a difference.
Right.
So we know our at least what we are making so well, so inside out, and our characters so well that I think the actors naturally start trusting you.
Right.
And I think you have to. Actors are really like, you know, they have all this, that drama around them, all that, you know, that people see. But I think what people don't see is they are very vulnerable. Actors are very, very vulnerable, and they have a very crazy job, you know, to be able, the good actors, to be able to pull out and get an emotion out. I mean, they are tapping into stuff,
Right.
which may not always be pleasant to tap into. You know, they go into spaces that most people avoid.
Right.
And it's a tricky occupation. They need a certain handling.
Right.
And they need to know you have their back.
Right.
And I feel like when, and I need to trust actors also. Like, I feel like that, you don't have to be best friends, but your work equation,
yeah.
they have to know that you care and
Right.
you've got them and they've got you, and that when that happens, it's heaven.
Right.
You know.
So finally, a question that nobody's asked you before: when are you making Z and MD2?
We will at some stage.
This is
No,
serious.
No, so I don't think we should loosely make these commitments.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any commitment.
Oh
and,
God, that's going to become the headline
yeah,
tomorrow. It's
yeah.
like you know, Zoya says,
No,
you know,
no,
like.
No, I mean, the idea is to come up with like a really good, I mean, it's not to really take a franchise forward.
I think what's most exciting now is Jile Zara, which Farhan is making. I think that's the one that's exciting.
That's exciting.
That's
Yeah.
exciting,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
good to see him back, like
Yeah,
directing
yeah,
after a long
yeah,
time.
he's going to have a blast with that one.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So thank you so much and all the
Thank
best
you.
for Archie's.
Thank you.
Actually, favorite Archie character?
Jughead.
It's going to be terrible, but I have to say Veronica. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. She's too funny. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Holidays nale, adu namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.
Join the team. Which values you and your thoughts? Hiring now.